Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. My name is Bob Lovgren. Here we talk about, as for those of you that haven't seen the show before, talk about things that are in the media, and not so much media watch as it is commenting on some of the stuff that they're doing. And of course, to be honest, we're conservatives. Rob Raffelli and I, and he's with me here as my host. He's not. It's virtual. He's someplace else. I won't tell you. He's a secret place. Anyway, he is. We talk about the things that are on the agenda in the 24-hour news cycle, as they call it, happening. Every 24 hours, something is happening. At any rate, we have a real biggie, of course. For the first time in American history, the Speaker of the House has been fired, basically. Kevin McCarthy has been fired. For those of you that have been living in the closet for a few days, this is what's happened. And others are now already nominated to take his place, Republicans in that, and we'll make comment on that. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rob Raffelli, and I'll let you start it off, Rob.
Sure. Since you mentioned that we're conservative, I'm not always conservative, and I bet you aren't always either. Mm-hmm. And I certainly wasn't conservative, but that was way, way back.
Well, we can talk about it. I mean, interrupt you 1 second. So I hate labels. I have certain things that other conservatives that I think about, that I'm sure most conservatives don't believe that. No, they don't. Mm-hmm. They think that's a true conservative, and the same with liberals. Go ahead.
I wanted to say, because of my favorite subject, myself, that I am prepared to work with people who disagree with me. Yeah. And for instance, when I lose an argument, I was not in favor of Obamacare, and to a great degree I'm still not. But one of the things that I did at the time is I said, very well, it's passed. I've lost this argument. Let's move on.
Right.
If we're going to have a government system, I would like to review the 10 or 20 top government systems of healthcare in the world and find out what features they had and do a compare and contrast. I would have wanted to get the best possible system that we could get. We didn't get that.
Yeah.
So, but I was looking at it saying, let's make the best of this.
Yeah.
Let us get if I've lost the argument, let's get the very best thing we can.
As I recall, in fact, I'll get personal here, but you actually lost your coverage, or you got more expensive, or some damn thing.
Yes, remember how we were told if you like your health plan, you can keep your health plan?
Yeah.
No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. They made mine illegal. They pushed me into something that cost much more, provided much less, and had a much higher deductible.
Yeah, right.
So maybe Obama didn't lie in that maybe he didn't know that it wouldn't be the case.
I stop you there for a second. In fact, we've talked about this before, people lying and so on. No, it's not a lie. They actually believe it. They actually think that is the truth. You think he read the law? Nobody reads the law. Well, Pelosi said that we'll pass it and then we'll read it. Well, she never read it anyway, the ones that she voted for and so on. This had to do with another bill. But anyway.
Two things about that. Not only don't read those laws, they don't write those laws.
Exactly right.
A guy we both know said, why are you asking him his position? He's not going to write the law. You should be asking him what the position of his aides are. They're going to write the law.
Exactly right. Yeah. And then, of course, when they write the law, they don't share the information back and forth as to what party, or they have 2,000 pages and so on. So there's always loopholes, basically, in these things. They're contradicting each other within the bill and so on. I always like to say, they get the bill out there and they put it on the table, and it's a foot tall of paper and so on. It reminds me of a piece of Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese has a lot of holes in it. Well, so does these bills. They have a lot of loopholes in it, and the people wwho read it are the people that are paid to do it. The lawyers and sometimes they're lawyer accountants combined, but the big companies can hire anybody they want and so on. They read it. They find the loopholes, and the purpose of the law is out the window. That
Sure.
they get around it.
Well, comedian Dave Chappelle, he was commenting on Trump, and I don't think he was particularly a fan, but he said he was watching the debate, and here's Hillary saying, this man doesn't pay much taxes. And Trump says, that makes me smart, is I use the system and I use the loopholes. You could have closed those, but your donors use them too.
Yeah. Well, they don't even know what they've done. Of course, they get, well, the personal care for anybody in the Washington, but especially elected officials, they get all the care they can possibly want. Obama shows up at the hospital. Believe me, he gets the best care possible as he can. I don't think that really ever happened and so on. But he aged a lot though in those 8 years. I have to tell you, that's a tough job.
It shows. It does show.
Yeah, right.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about McCarthy. See, now, one of the things that people, I think, let's see, we talked about the Representative Gates from Florida. He was the one who put in something like a motion to vacate or something like that.
Yeah.
Apparently, the rules have been changed, so anybody in the House can put in a motion to vacate the speakership at any time.
Yeah, right.
They're probably going to want to change that. In fact, McCarthy, when he was stepping down because he'd been taken out, and they said, "Do you have any thoughts or advice?" He says, "Yeah, change the rules. You got me, but you may find that you won't enjoy this any more than I did."
Yeah, right. Well,
after all, look at how he was gotten rid of.
Yeah.
It was every Democrat plus 8 Republicans.
Yeah.
So that tells you that if the opposition party is willing to vote as a bloc, you can be taken out by just a very few people in your party.
Exactly. In fact, when they passed that $1.7 trillion bill, it was the pandemic bill or whatever they call it, infrastructure bill or whatever the heck they call it and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It took, Pelosi did not have the votes. I think it was 3 or 4 of the squad, AOC and her gang, voted against it. What did it take to pass it? Republicans voting for it. That's what happened. Not many, right, but that voted for the bill and so on. Well, of course, that wasn't the case here. In fact, so we're talking about this, getting out. I think, in fact, that the Democrats have done themselves a real disservice. Here they had a guy that actually was giving them what they wanted, to some degree. Of course, we know another November 17th when it happens all over again. Keep in mind this last one, the resolution. What is a continuing resolution? Or
yes,
they didn't spend the money there. Nobody has to worry about it. They call up the Treasury, start printing those bills. If they're not, not doing it already. Anyway, what was I trying to say here? It may be the worst of it when Jim Jordan, and I think he will become the Speaker of the House. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to predict this. Here's what's going to happen. Jim Jordan will say, okay, we're going to go after the bill. We're going to put in everything anybody wants. Every little pork barrel thing and so on. You want to do this, you want to do that. One of the pieces by the way, a congresswoman, a Republican, voted against it. Only the one woman, Mace, her name is Mace. It was a moderate, supposedly a moderate, voted against, throwing out McCarthy because he wouldn't put in the bill an anti-abortion limit or something like that in the bill. Well, that's not what this was all about. And anyway, she voted against him. Well, I can just imagine Nancy Pelosi when she told a congressperson that you're going to vote this way or else, and they voted that way. 100%. She ran that a very tight ship when she was speaker and so on. She was something that, and she's still there, by the way. She's going to run, and she's going to run for another seat. And they just kicked her out of a special office or something like that the last couple of days because she was here at the Feinstein's funeral. But again, they could have done it, but then they'll send it to the Senate. So now the House has passed the bill. In fact, they did. They voted 12 different separate bills for 12 different, and they've already sent those to the Senate. They're just sitting there right now, because they want to get this continuing revolution. We want a blank check. We don't want numbers at all. We want all the number, as Democrats, all the money we want to spend. We don't want to have any kind of limit, basically, on what we're going to spend and so on. But they're sitting there waiting to do it. Anyway, I think that he will, Jordan will send it to the Senate, even if it's a continuing resolution, with all everything tagged onto it. And of course, it won't even come up for a vote. Schumer, the majority leader, Chuck Schumer in New York, he will just put it under the table and don't do nothing. And even if it did pass, which it's a no, it's not going to pass. Even if it did pass, Biden will veto it. So there's not a chance. But the House now can say, well, we've sent you all this stuff, and so okay, we'll negotiate, bring back what you want to take out of it, and so on. But just don't bury the damn thing and then blame it on the Democrats. Blame it on the Republicans. Thank God for Fox News. You get a little different purview idea of what's going on. As opposed to sometimes I put Fox on and then also put CNN on, so I can switch back and forth and so on, so I can see what they're talking about, and that, and also stop commercials. You get the feeling that the old idea that the press was non-partisan or so on, so that went out the window a long, long time ago and never really existed. I'm sorry. I go on and on about this stuff.
I just wanted to mention that for the next round for November 17th, we've already had at least one congressman, a Democrat, saying, "Well, I'd rather shut the country down than pass a budget that doesn't have more money for Ukraine in it."
Yeah.
So I looked at it and I said, okay, I understand this is a way to do this stuff politically.
Yeah.
But you understand what you're also telling me is that you will make Americans suffer if we don't give money to Ukraine. And
well, that's a good question.
We have given them more than $100 billion already.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that, like I said, I've said part of I've said it publicly here too, and so on. Ukrainians are no saints. Keep in mind, they welcomed the Nazis when they took over Ukraine. Didn't last very long, of course. And they killed off, all the Jews. There were a lot of Jewish people. Some of the countries that are in Europe have more Jewish population than other countries, and so on. So, for example, Poland and Ukraine. Baba Yar is one of they killed 38 Jews in one day and buried them in a big pit.
I believe you mean 38,000. Yes.
38,000. I'm sorry. Did I say that? I was wrong.
You said 38. Yes.
Sometimes my brain and my mouth don't come together these days. There's some loose connections up here. At any rate, the Ukrainians are no saints. All the guards at the con, they had a few SS Germans and so on, but the vast majority of the people that ran those concentration and death camps and so on were Ukrainians. And they supplied 2 divisions to the SS divisions to the German army. In fact, during the World War II, and again, they're bringing up the idea that's $100 billion that they've already given them. That where's all that money been going? Maybe this is the payoff of what when they gave Biden the $40 million or whatever it was, or Hunter the money and so on. They're still, hey, you still owe us some money here. You owe us some more money. But I think the bill they did pass, even the continuing resolution, had that in it. No, it did not have the Ukrainian deal in the deal. That's the only.
Whatever we do.
But they're going to get there. The Democrats just say we're going to get it anyway. Go ahead.
Whatever we do, the thing to do in the next year or two is say, okay, can we see the accounting? You shipped them all this money. Let's see what it got spent on. Who got it?
Yeah.
How much it got spent where, and if there's anything left, where is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so much money as it is equipment that, they count what they send them, the value of the different armaments that they send them. I'm not sure of that. I may have sent them.
I think that what happens is we give them the money and they say, great. Now, of course, you have to spend that with Raytheon, or you have to spend that with, Grumman or whatever. But anyway, it cycles through some interesting hands and pretty quickly. But I also believe that a whole bunch of it is going to vanish in a black budget sort of way.
I think so too.
We don't know where. We don't know where loads of the Afghan money went either.
Yeah. That's a good example of it. I always like to tell that story about the guy that they always wore that funny hat that ran Afghanistan. He wanted the CIA, in order to be cooperative, the CIA was supposed to give him the money. And so the CIA went to the Treasury Department and say, hey, we need get some money to this guy. It went it was being delivered in little valises, whatever they carried it in. And anyway, they say that they would go to the Treasury Department and say, we need this money, cash, to do it, and so on. And the guy at the Treasury Department said, well, we can't really do that today. They said that's okay, but you have to wait until tomorrow for the ink to dry. That's how that worked. He lives in Switzerland now in an estate, some kind of chalet that he has on Lake Geneva somewhere. And he still wears that funny hat. I forgot his name. Anyway, again, that's how that money disappears. And again, the Ukrainians, who knows where that money's been going? God knows. And although I got the Zelensky, I got to give him credit. By the way, he's Jewish, and he lost relatives in that World War II. He has actually lost relatives. They killed a lot of Jews in the Ukraine. Anyway. Where was we on that one? The bill itself, that was part of the deal. But again, we'll just have to see what happens. Closing it on the government. You said that the hurts people. Not me. not right. a lot of people, because I have the least amount of government connection I have makes my day. If I don't get a letter from some government agency in the morning, I consider that a pretty good day. Right off the bat, or a telephone call, or something that somebody wants something, or some kind of scam thing they say they're the government and they really ain't. You have to figure it out. I got one of those recently, in fact. Anyway,
so just for a moment, let's mention. Actually, I was wondering if I could get the director just to pull up a meme that gets used a lot. This is our picture that's labeled number 230. Ukrainian distraction, or Ukraine distraction. There's a distraction meme where some guy's walking down the street with his girlfriend or wife, and he winds up looking in the wrong direction. Anyway,
let me see that.
It's a good one. It gets people change the labels. In this case,
I got it up now.
Yeah, good. It's hey, check out Ukraine, and of course domestic issues is a little upset with it.
Yeah.
You should be over here. Hey.
Right. Yeah, they want to, and I believe that some money should have gone if it could be honestly spent and so on and so forth. I think that really is a good idea, because otherwise they're going to be sending troops over there. And in fact, what really happened here is it proven that the Russian army isn't what we thought it was. It wasn't as strong. It wasn't as they couldn't beat these guys. In the very first few months when they didn't even have any weapons. Basically, they had a few rifles and guns and so on. That's it. That's all they had. And now, of course, they're going to get jet planes, and I think that's a bad idea. But because then they can go in. Now the jet plane can go into Russia deep, and they get a little off course and bomb some little city in Russia. Although they are using drones to do it. Go into right to Moscow, in fact. Anyway,
well, I'd love to see it all end as soon as possible. Way too many people are getting killed. Nobody's proven to me that this is doing anything good.
Me too. I think
I really don't have the answer.
I don't know what the negotiation can do. I mean, what Putin got certain part about territory, he wants to keep it and so on. Well, the Ukrainians are not going to agree to that. In fact, they want Crimea back. And that's a good example of it. Crimea has been a Russian port for their navy for hundreds of years.
Right, that's their water port.
And it's been run by Russia. There's a lot of Russians that live there, Russian citizens that live there. So maybe that's the negotiating point. Well, you can have the base there; it'll become part of Ukraine. But it's a very good economic thing. Now you have all those people living there that the Ukrainians are going to serve. They're going to get paid to serve them and so on. And I just don't get it anyway. I mean, he's bombing all these places, blowing up buildings and so on. If he wanted even, he's going to have to go in there and build all that back. It's going to cost him billions, if not trillions of dollars to do all that stuff and so on.
No, it's going to cost us.
Well, that's true. That Marshall Plan.
It's going to. I feel like we wind up holding the bag pretty frequently.
There you go. But I guess the bottom line for me is that I'm for Ukrainians not being invaded and all that stuff, what they're going through. But at the same time, it's a little doubtful. At least no American soldiers are being killed. No American troops are being killed, as far as I know, anyway.
I'm pretty humanitarian. I don't like seeing 50,000 Ukrainian guys getting killed either.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of horrible.
Even the Russian soldiers, young Russian soldiers. Yes. What are they fighting for?
They didn't want this.
Yeah, they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's right. These people who live in the 20th and 19th and 18th centuries, land occupying a country is a forward movement. They get the dictator like Putin is and so on. They think that's the idea. We want to take over a country. That's not the way it's done. China does it. They buy countries. They own them. And they can't get and they're going to have now. The Chinese Navy now has several ports. I think one in the Mediterranean for Syria, some in places. I think even in Africa, places like that where their ships, their warships, their navy. They own the place. They loan the money to the country, knowing full well. I think Zanzibar or something like that. One of those countries off the coast of Africa, that big island off the coast of Zanzibar. Madagascar, yeah. I think they own a good chunk of that country now because they loan them the money, knowing full well they weren't going to get their money. But then they foreclosed and they took over the base. Right. And now they're stuck with this base there because that's their laws.
Yeah, hey, you owe us.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned this guy before, and I will again. This is Thomas Steinbeck. He was the son of the famous author John Steinbeck.
Yeah.
And
he lived here.
Yes, he lived in Montecito. He was a terrific script doctor, so he was fixing scripts for Hollywood, which is how he made his fortune. And he probably inherited some from his dad as well, but I don't know that. But he was also a Vietnam vet. He was a historian.
Yeah.
He was a very, very interesting fellow, and he liked to drink whiskey at a bar I went to, so I many times sat with him and chatted.
Yeah.
And he said, as in his capacity as a historian and an observer of geopolitics, that China never fights anyone they can buy.
Exactly. I remember that. Yeah, you quoted that before. You're right. Yeah. That's their plan. They sell those Christmas lights to the United States. I talked to some people there from LA Harbor, and they got these huge ships come in around the Christmas time, or before, of course. And they're loaded with Christmas lights. That's what they're. Not a Christmas light that you see out there and all is made in this country anymore. Although I did see a label one time that said it was made in Rancho Cucamonga by Chinese people. So maybe that's a little bit different. I'm making that up. Go ahead.
I know. Anyway, I was just looking at a few products the other day, and I said, I bet this is made in China, and flipped it over, and yes, it was. And I'm just going to comment in passing, I hadn't planned this, but if your country stops making stuff, you really aren't participating in the world the same way you were before.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, we're working smarter. I heard some comedian the other day saying, we'll show the world. What if New York went on strike? I mean, where are you going to get your poetry slams now?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A Christmas light.
A lot of things that they do.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, they're buying other countries with our money. We buy, you know, they get paid off with treasury notes or whatever the heck it is. That they're getting American money basically, and they're using that to buy stuff and so on. They have like one carrier. That's not operative, by the way. They built it, but they can't really make it work. If they didn't find out. But now I remember hearing about a Chinese guy who was selling stuff to the United States here, and he decided to invest his money in the United States. So he bought the harbor in Newport Beach. He bought the harbor, the hotel, and the commercial area in the harbor. Now, if that's true or not, but there's a Chinese guy that I think it is true. He bought it with American money. So he owns it. And there's a good example of it. They've been, you know, they have bought land and property, farms or something around military bases supposedly, but they're the property owner. There's nothing you can really do about it, even if they are a Chinese company or so on. Well, of course, they hide all that stuff. It's not actually owned by Joe Schmo that was making a little deal with the Chinese Communist Party to do it. And it's, by the way, it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party, not by the Chinese government. What?
No, I was agreeing with you. I just wanted to touch on something else about.
Yeah, let's go on. Move on.
This is about the budget again. You know, we were having all these talks and negotiations and votes about getting a continuing resolution, and in the midst of all that, there's a Democrat from New York. I think he's from Brooklyn. I'm not sure. Anyway, his name is Jamal Bowman, and he pulls a fire alarm in in the congressional office building.
Democrat.
Yeah, of course. And that causes some chaos, delays the vote by a few hours. Mm-hmm. And he later he wasn't going to fess up to anything, but as it turns out, well, of course, there was security video of him going over to the fire alarm and pulling it. Yeah. So now he's come out and apologized, said he was sorry that he made this mistake, but the door was locked and he thought that would open the door. So here's what I say about that. It's a fire alarm. It looks like every fire alarm on a wall that you ever saw. It does not look different. And this guy used to be a principal at a middle school. Yeah. You think he knows what a fire alarm looks like? Yeah,
exactly. And it says fire too, by the way. It says fire. I know that.
It's red. It has the little thing that you slide down. It looks like every other fire alarm you ever saw in your life. And I didn't mean to do that. Okay, yeah. As the Russians like to say, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah. Yeah, AOC apologized for him, as a matter of fact. She's a congresswoman from, I think, the Brooklyn area out that way.
Yes, right nearby.
Yeah, nearby and so on, so knows the guy. But I guess he did it, we're suspicious that why he did it, and it was because they were trying to, this is Saturday, and they had till midnight to get this bill, otherwise they're going to shut the government down. And so they had a bill, and I think they had already taken a vote or was going to take a vote and so on, but they didn't want, they're going to take a vote, but they didn't want other members to read it because there's a big deal. And so that they emptied the building and shut the building down for some period of time and so on. And the clock was running to midnight, to run to midnight. So they had to go in there again and read the bill later. Who knows what was really in the bill? That's the thing, you never really know what's in those bills. Unlike the people that write them, of course, don't even know really and so on. Like I say, a lot of lawyers and accountants, they do know. And they're being paid very handsomely to know.
Yes. Well, let's see.
How about Hunter Biden? You want to go down to Hunter Biden?
Yeah, let's touch on our favorite presidential son.
Yeah.
So Hunter Biden, I'm just going to mention this, is he's asked a judge to throw out the gun charges against him. See, he was getting a sweetheart deal. He was getting to plead to the most minor things.
He wasn't going to serve any time.
Yeah, he he had loads of charges against him. He got everything reduced to the lowest possible, and the judge was going to sign off on all this.
Yeah.
But he wanted to find out how sweet a deal it was, and it turned out to be so sweet. They said, yeah, I can't in good conscience do this. Some of the stuff is going to have to go to trial.
That
So,
the judge said that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, now he's being asked to throw out the gun charge. I don't know what the grounds are, and maybe that would be important. But let's just note.
Well, you know what? It is go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He's got gun charges against him because he was a convicted felon. He was a person prohibited from owning guns because of his conviction, because of his drug habit, and he lied on these federal forms, and lying on those forms is a felony.
Yeah.
I filled out those forms. Let me tell you, you don't lie.
You don't lie when you're trying to get a gun.
Don't lie on the form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
But even so, it wasn't, they hadn't killed anybody or so on and so forth. But again, it's like the Democrats keep saying, nobody is above the law, not even the son of the President of the United States.
We'd like to think so. I mean,
that's
what we like to think of.
If you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you.
I mean, that's why we like to call it law. You say, well, this is the rule.
Yeah.
And it applies to everybody who brushes up against it.
Yeah.
Unless you're well connected.
Yeah.
I don't like, it doesn't play well anywhere.
Yeah. He's like I say, poor old Joe. He was elected senator from Delaware. He hadn't even started serving yet, but it was a car accident, and his wife and daughter were killed. The two boys, Bo and Hunter, were in the car at the time, but they weren't hurt. Anyway, his wife and daughter were killed, and he went into the Senate. And then Bo Biden, he got a disease and he died. So poor old Joe, he's left with the Hunter as his as a son. And let's face it, the guy, anybody that says that this guy, like you said, showed that one a head buried in the sand. Yeah, that he's not exactly a very good son, put it that way. And he's using his Billy Beer. You remember Billy Beer? Who was Bill Clinton's brother, made a beer, and he was famous because it was Bill Clinton's beer or something like that. And so
he was Jimmy Carter's brother.
Jimmy Carter,
Billy.
I'm sorry, Jimmy Carter. Right.
I didn't like Jimmy Carter, but I was very sympathetic when he was questioned about that, and he said in his inimitable way, which I'll imitate anyhow, well, I don't tell Billy what to do, and he don't tell me what to do. Yeah,
right. That's right. And of course, it was obviously not much of a deal and so on. But here he is. You're going to sell your influence. You're related to the President of the United States or any kind of big, or even in this case, it was he was only the Vice President. But even so, it was a saleable name. And there again, keep in mind that was a big controversy. This is why Donald Trump was impeached the first time, because it was quite a deal being cooked in the Ukraine. And now we forget all that now that they've been invaded. Well, that's all that's all gone now and so on. Well, it isn't. It's still part there. It's still part of history in that. Anyway, Hunter is that. Talk about a stupid thing to do. He leaves that laptop computer in some guy's store and then forgets about it.
Yeah, and he didn't pick it up.
He didn't pick it up and left it. I don't know how long it was sitting there or something like that.
Over a year.
Yeah, the guy didn't know. I guess maybe the guy the repairman didn't know exactly who it was or whatever. And anyway, he found out with Hunter Biden, and the FBI, I guess, came and got it after one time, and so on. But it's a lot of information on there. And the guy just left it. Hunter just left it. This is sloppy. If you want to be a crook, don't be so sloppy about just leaving the evidence laying around. But here again, he's the son of the president now, the son of the president of the United States. He's not going to do any time. Well, we'll see what happens. Again,
here's something interesting about. We're actually getting this in two ways about Hunter and the laptop. One is he denies that it's his. The other part is that revealing the stuff on the laptop invades his privacy.
Yeah. The third one, too, they say it was a setup by the Russians. Remember that? They had something like 20 or 30 or 200 security officers that worked for the government, so on, saying it was a Russian disinformation that the Russians were putting out. Well, it turned out now that indicates them. Keep in mind, Nixon was impeached, or no, he actually was never impeached, but he quit not because he broke into Watergate, but he tried to put Rush under the carpet. Well, these other guys that signed that petition, they should basically certainly lose their government pension. That's for sure.
That was actually 50 or 51 major intelligence people and former intelligence people. Look, one of them was Brennan. One was John Brennan. One of them was Jake Clapper.
Yeah.
I mean, these were, and it turns out, well, they didn't look. They just said it has all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. In other words, they didn't know jack, and it was organized by some guy at the White House who wanted to get the heat off the Biden administration. So he actually went out and contacted these guys and had them, he probably wrote the letter and had them sign it. Yeah,
right, exactly. And again, that's one of those things that they, like I say, Washington is a very, it's the seat of government. People there, they want power. They think they know what's best for the nation. Like I always tell people, the three things in the Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The founders, whoever, Jefferson, who wrote it, and so on, and the founding fathers who signed it, wanted me to be happy. No, not exactly happy. They wanted me to have the opportunity to pursue happiness. That's the difference. The difference is that the government thinks they know what they're, that this is what's going to make people happy, and of course they send them money. Send them checks in the mail. I have a woman that works for me. She got 2 checks in the mail and a credit card too, by the way. She didn't know why she got it, but a check that had her name on it from the government, and she cashed it, of course. Anyway.
I got one more thing about that letter.
Yeah, go ahead.
That the 50 intelligence chiefs signed.
Yeah.
And that was that Biden used that. He cited that letter during the debate with Trump to say that the point that Trump was bringing up was bullshit.
Now this is Biden. This is Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Yes, this is Joe Biden in the debate cited the intelligence chief's letter to say that Trump's charges were bullshit, when in fact Biden knew from his own personal involvement that it was true.
Yeah.
So he was just looking into the camera and lying to you with the cover that these guys had provided.
They always talk about this, like I've said many times now on this show tonight, is that nobody's above the law. There's impeachment proceedings going on in the House of Representatives now, and it probably will continue now with Jim Jordan in charge as a speaker and so on. But I was going to say now, I forgot now. Anyway, let's move on.
Sure.
We've only got 20 minutes left. We've got a bunch of things. You want to talk about Poland, the immigration policy and problem in Europe?
That is a good one.
Yeah.
And of course, the NATO countries and the European community is very welcoming of refugees. Now, I myself am not harsh on refugees particularly, but of course, what they're not doing is they're not vetting. If 200,000 people show up and say I'm a refugee, I mean, instead of I'm not an economic migrant or a guy who wants to live on your welfare system.
Yeah, now this is from African countries now, right?
Right. Most of this is either Middle Eastern or African.
Middle Eastern too, yeah.
Middle Eastern and African, and they're coming in droves. And the thing is that next thing you know, they don't have jobs, they don't have sponsors, they and they aren't vetted as, look, this person really is a refugee. If somebody is you literally know that they're being persecuted and maybe will suffer some irreparable harm by staying in their home country, then that person is a refugee. But of course, we also have, there's this logical thing where we know you don't get to pass through a safe country to go on to the other safe country that you prefer. You are a refugee, you can take refuge in the first safe country whose territory you're on. Which is why a lot of us thought that if somebody says, well, I'm being persecuted in Guatemala. I say, yes, but you're not being persecuted in Mexico, and you're in Mexico now. You don't have to come to the United States.
Exactly,
you're
right.
in a safe country.
Yeah.
So at any rate, what's going on now is, first of all, like Italy is getting a little tick that they not only are there, thousands and thousands of people landing on Italy's shores and trying to claim asylum. There was a population of 6,000 little Italian island.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they've got 14,000.
More people.
Yeah, more people,
Yeah.
and all of them they're all males of military age, and they're all black Africans.
Yeah.
So they're looking around and saying, well, if it was 25 people from Morocco who'd already studied Italian, maybe we could resettle them.
Yeah, right.
But if you got 2 or 3 times as many people as we do, and what the hell are we supposed to do? And it's not our policy to absorb. Anyway, it's the European policy. Well, as it turns out, now the Prime Minister of Italy is saying, we're finding out there's all these non-governmental organizations operating ships in the Mediterranean who are making sure that these guys get here. And as it turns out, they're non-governmental, but we find out that, they're being funded by the German government.
German government, yeah.
Yeah, and they're looking around and saying, I'm not sure I want you to do that.
Yeah. I guess Germany has a problem with it, of course, with with refugees. In the city of New York, to change the subject slightly,
Sure.
In the city of New York, the governor, the mayor of the city of New York, now they had a law, they had to house basically any immigrant that came in. They had a certain policy that they provided them with the certain law and so on. Well, they're rescinding that law now because they're being overrun basically in New York. And now it's not buses coming in from Florida and Texas. These are the people themselves that end up going to New York. Because that's where they want to, and they're not being forced to do it. That's where they want to go. That's Martha's Vineyard again. Those people there's probably a lot of people that got shipped there and are still there because that's a pretty nice place to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't like that?
Yeah.
But what I noted was that all these places who I understand one wants to be generous, but people like to be generous with other people's time, other people's money, and other people's land.
Exactly, right. They're all for these things, not with your money, not with theirs. Go ahead.
Yeah, they were great with. You have to let these people come across and stay.
Yeah.
But that was New York saying that stuff to Texas. They weren't settling in New York. They were in Texas, and they could look at the Texans and say, "You don't want them, you bigot."
Yeah.
Well, now you got them, and frankly, now you got like 0.5% of what we got, and what do you know? It's a strain, isn't it?
Yeah. And they to go along with that, they're changing policies because they're getting overrun. Now they have to admit that there is a problem. For example, Joe Biden decided to build 200 miles or 20 more miles of wall in Texas, somewhere in Texas and so on. And he, prior to it being elected, he was talking about there'll be no more walls will be built there, and that's it. The people can get in and so on and so forth. Well, he changed his mind. And now he's building a 20-foot, not 20 foot, something like that though, 20 miles or something like that. Maybe 20 miles, maybe 200 miles. I can't remember. I think it's 200 miles. I'm not sure. Anyway, he's building a wall, and all the stuff that Donald Trump bought is still down there. There's some yard place where they had it, so they already had the material to build this wall, as a matter of fact, because of Donald Trump.
Right. And so on the immigration subject, we're going to pop back over to Europe for a second, because I've seen statements lately from the president of Poland or probably the prime minister of Poland and prime minister of Hungary, who both they're insisting, hey, you're a refugee, you're already coming through a safe nation. You don't get to come in here. You're already in a safe nation. And the the prime minister of Hungary, of Poland, he just says, here's something interesting. you know how many terror attacks we've had? 0.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And we like it that way.
Yeah. Exactly.
And and he says, yeah, in 20 years, people are going to look around here and they're going to say, gee, these people kind of look Polish. He says, that's what we wanted.
That's what we wanted. Right. Right.
And that's what I wanted. He says, that's what the people who elected me wanted.
Yeah.
So he said, we're not taking any guff about that.
Exactly right, boy. That Syrian, I guess Syria's, you say the Middle East, I didn't think of that. I suppose some people from Africa too, but from especially the Middle East and so on. And let's face it, Syria was a French colony, I think, and of course a lot of British areas out there in the Middle East were protectorates and stuff like that of the British, but of course they were the citizens of that country. And it goes on and on. Lebanon, you name it, Iraq, Iran, even Iran, and all that is the places that have a lot of trouble. They want to they vote with their feet, and they swim, if they can swim, to get out of the country. America and these European countries are they're a lot like the United States. They're compassionate to people that have gone are trying to better their lives and so on, but not quite as good as the United States and that. By the way, that in Europe, in Germany, they years ago they brought a lot of Turkish people into the country to work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In our country, if you are born in this country, you're automatically a citizen. But the Turkish people that came to Germany and were working there and so on, that had a family and they had children in Germany, did not become German citizens. I think I think that's still the rule. In fact, they want to change that here in the United States even, but I think they believe that is in the Constitution.
Oh, well, we're at it. Japan isn't taking any refugees.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Japan is a very insular place. Look, as far as the Japanese are concerned, if you're Japanese, but you've lived for 20 years in some other country, when you return, you don't feel as Japanese as you used to.
Yeah,
and
I would bet.
It's not that they don't take you back, but you just don't seem very Japanese anymore.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, that's okay. Why would they? I guess they go back to the country, I guess, in some respects. But at any rate, there's a lot of migration goes on in this world, and in fact, in the United States, we're the Statue of Liberty bring us on near whatever it is that's on the metal plate at the bottom, and that was encouraged people to come. My relatives, all my grandparents were Swedish, not refugees, but Swedish immigrants to the United States. All of them. They wanted to come here because Sweden wasn't a very good place to live. They wanted to be farmers, and that's what they were, farmers in Minnesota.
And they moved someplace just as cold and nasty as the place they left.
Right, and they were used to that, and this, then they get a farm for free. They came in the late 1800s, I think it was, pretty much late 1800s, and they got their land. If you cultivated a thing 200 acres, it became yours after a period of time. They called it by Lincoln did that during the Civil War. Any rate,
let's get into.
You only got about 10 minutes here. What you want to talk about this Hutchinson woman?
Sure, why not talk about Cassidy?
Or you want to show some videos?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about Cassidy Hutchinson first.
No, you want some work to do, and we might as well use them. Go ahead.
Sure. All right. And in that case, I'm going to go to the video that's labeled 90. It's about The Simpsons, because the Simpsons have again and again and again predicted things that came true, including President Trump. This one is about the media's need for things to scare you with. So I'd love when we can, I'd like to run the Simpsons pandemic prediction, because it's from 2010, and it's funny, and it'll be good food for thought. We'll talk about it after we run it.
Okay, you got it, Mike? Yeah, here it is.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
Yeah.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time.
That is smoke.
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested.
God.
Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on something that's in every household, something that people are a little bit afraid of already. House cat flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern. So petter beware, that warm body on your lap just might be ready to destroy your tender fiddles. Springfielders are advised to stay tuned for more information if they experience any of the following symptoms: mild thirst, occasional hunger, tiredness at night.
That's pretty much me.
It's pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, it was very, a lot of that, well, of course, the virus thing happened. In many ways, that's exactly what happened. And
sure,
of course,
we've already been through.
Yeah, go ahead.
Already been through swine flu, avian flu, SARS. It's not like we didn't have the occasional disease outbreaks that spread widely.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, it was, for something made in 2010 to, that's anticipating by about 10 years, and it was just evil and cynical enough to be believable.
Well, of course, we were having those things, the vaccinations. I get calls all the time around my email and all that. You should come into different drugstores and get the summer flu and so on and so forth. And I got a vaccination for the COVID thing and so on. And then 3 months later, I was diagnosed with AFib. And in fact, looking up the literature and all that, you see that in fact that it was produced and millions of people got the shot, but 7,000 people had heart problems, and I'm one of those people. I think, it was hard to be. It was a coincidence, I guess, but I believe that might have been. Keep in mind, I would have to say, I'm just going to say this: the vaccinations have saved millions of people's lives. There's no question about that, and so on. But it's not not a science that guarantees everybody is going to be okay. The vaccination can be harmful to people too. Every person in the world is different than every other person in the world. Your DNA is. There's nobody that's the same that's ever been the same. There's nobody the same today as they live. There's never been anybody the same in all the history of our country, and there never will be a same. Because you got 3.5 billion base pairs in the DNA and so on, and that can come out any way it wants to, and you're looking at literally billions of different things, systems that can happen. Anyway.
All right. How about the video that's labeled 10? It's about I call it DF for deep fake. It's about Letitia James. She's the what is she? She is the Attorney General of New York. And involved in getting Trump.
Okay, yeah, right, okay.
And I called us a deep fake because somebody put a clown makeup on her. She was not wearing this in the original.
They were void of any facts and or any evidence. What they were comments that unfortunately fomented violence, comments that I would describe as race baiting, and comments unfortunately that appeals to the bottom of our humanity. This case was brought simply because it was a case where individuals have engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And I will not sit idly by and allow anyone to subvert the law. And lastly, I will not be bullied. And so Mr. Trump is no longer here. The Donald Trump show is over. This was nothing more than a political stunt.
By the way, that
is
the
she
politi-
really wearing that face? Is that really?
No, of course not. No,
Okay,
that
say,
but
well, it's pretty
see,
good
I actually
makeup.
have the same video without that makeup because she wasn't wearing it. But I
Okay.
saw that one. I thought, well, it makes the clown show a little more obvious.
Yeah, right.
But one of the things that she's saying there is that she says, "Oh, Mr. Trump isn't here any longer. It's not the Donald Trump show.
Yeah.
This was a political stunt." The political stunt was that he showed up at his trial.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was there.
I think,
and he didn't
I
have to
think
be
you-
there.
Yeah, but I think that you can actually be at your trial and it need not be condemned
Yeah.
as a political stunt. In fact,
Yeah.
some people can't avoid being at their trials.
Yeah. So this you know, it really indicates basically that this people that with the internet and all that information is out there can do somebody that made her with that I guess your video made that put that face on her, which they can do these days. You know, all kinds of different things.
They could have made her somebody else.
Yeah, right. And that this is what happens. But I can always say, you know, there's freedom of speech. And there's also freedom to listen. You don't have to listen to things that you don't believe in and you don't think are right, they're not true, or lies, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, we've got two more minutes. I'll let you let you close it up, Rob.
All right. First of all, I'll throw in a humor note to go with that here, since she was calling Donald Trump's appearance at his own trial a political stunt. It reminded me of something from who was it? Kingston Trio about a guy who winds up being tried for shooting a deputy, and he says,
Yeah.
"Well, I didn't have a key and I didn't have a file. Naturally, I stayed around for my trial."
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, what I wanted to talk about last is, as we began to mention, Cassidy Hutchinson, who was technically working at the White House, young woman.
Oh yeah, Hutchinson.
She's,
Yeah.
Now she's written a book, but she had claimed that Donald Trump had grabbed the wheel of the limo to try to go to the January 6th mess, and of course she wasn't present, so she said, well, a Secret Service agent told her about it, except the Secret Service agent she mentioned said, no, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But now in her book, she's got lots of other cute stuff. One is, she says, Rudy Giuliani groped her at the White House.
Yeah.
So it's as we were mentioning earlier, it's
And of course,
the
what she
greatest
said,
accusation.
obviously, what she said was true. You know that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the greatest accusation because you know, if somebody says, yeah, he punched me in the face, well, you could say, well, here's my black eye.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But
exactly.
if you say, you know, 2 years later, you say, oh, and he touched my ass. Well, I don't know. I mean, he has hands. She has an ass. It
right.
could have happened, but it may not have.
Made me a lot more careful when I'm around women sometimes, that's for sure. Anyway, we only got a few seconds left. I'm going to close the show, okay?
Go for it.
Thank you for watching. If you're out there watching and so on, we hope you do it again. And we had the Bob's TV show. No, we have our own email address, which I'm sure
We do?
showed.